Hey, what's going on, DJ?
Indie horror games are really hit and miss. You might remember a fair few months ago, this game Zucosis came out. This was like the game to stream. Everyone streamed it. I streamed it. And I kind of realized that the game was a complete, glitchy, unfinished mess.
What?
And the worst thing is, at the time, I was really excited for this game to the point that I thought I might even turn it into a main channel video, but it was just so underwhelming. I even invested time joining the official Discord server to report any bugs I had. Basically just got no help whatsoever. But now it seems that that same company have basically gone underground and created a new company with a new horror game to trick you into thinking they didn't actually make Zucosis. I also want to give a massive thanks to Fiznom because he was actually the person that reached out and contacted me about this whole story, and it would have just gone totally under the radar if he didn't reach out. So I appreciate that. You know what, mate? For a VTuber, you're all right.
Ah! What?
I like the new model. No reason why.
Thank you, Pyrocynical, for the £100.
I always find this really funny with game companies. Usually, if they make a flop, they'll actually spend time trying to work on it. I mean, a great example here is No Man's Sky. When that game came out, it was terrible. Everyone made videos saying how absolutely horrendous it was. And Hello Games, instead of being like, I don't know, what can we do? Let's make another mobile slop game on a motorbike. That was an actual game that they made, by the way, before No Man's Sky. Or they could have just dissolved the company. But instead, they basically spent the best part of a decade improving the game, working on it. And even though the player base isn't as big as when the game came out, because, you know, the hype kind of died down, they've still earned that massive amount of respect to the point that they can now make another project without people kind of looming over them thinking it could be another No Man's Sky situation. Now, less about procedural open world sandbox survival games. We have way too many of those. But I want to talk more about indie horror games because there's a lot of them. Most of them are pretty bad.
What are you doing in my home? It was a pretty good game, actually.
I would say there's a lot of slop, but that word has been stolen from me and regurgitated on every single corner of the internet.
Slop.
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 Slop, 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 slop. Don't you have anything else to talk about?
But don't get me wrong, there have been some amazing survival horror games by incredibly small teams. Signalis, Inscription, Mouthwashing, of course, Darkwood. Have you noticed I've listed all the games that the majority of you beg me to actually make videos on? But for every masterpiece, there's unfortunately 20 Garten of Banbans. But the thing is, even with Garten of Banban, I feel like it's actually solidified its place as this kind of like semi-sarcastic game now. So most people that cover it, they do it ironically, and the creators know that and feed into that. So, you know, most people hated the first Garten of Banban, but playing the more recent ones, it's just hilarious how unfinished everything is. And one of the reasons why indie survival horror games are so popular is because, I mean, first of all, they sometimes can be really good, but more importantly, it is like the creme de la creme of clip farming. Basically, every single streamer you can think of in the past 2 years that has become famous, iShowSpeed, Queso, they became famous initially from playing horror games. I'd like to imagine the iShowSpeed fans are sat there thinking, oh man, he fell off traveling the world. He was doing so much better when he was playing Sonic EXE.
Hello? Sonic with the little dick. Oh, I'm sorry.
But unfortunately, because of this, it's led a lot of developers to think to themselves, wait a minute, we don't need to craft good gameplay mechanics or story. We just need to have jump scares every 5 seconds. But then we could make a mascot of our character to make merch from. And then the end game for any indie survival horror developer, sending money to Markiplier to bribe him into playing your game.
Hello, everybody. My name is Markiplier, and welcome to Sonic Dreams Collection. No, no, thank you. No, no, please, no. I said no means no. I don't wanna.
So, like I said earlier, you might remember the infamous Zucosis game that I was calling Zucosis the entire time, and my stream just never let it go, ever. Guys, you need to understand, I sometimes mispronounce words. It doesn't happen. Okay, it does happen a lot, but not too often. Now, Zucosis was made by a team called Clapperheads. And when the game dropped, every big YouTuber covered it. Like I said, Queso, Jacksepticeye as well. Now, this was released back in January 2024, and that's actually not a long time ago, despite the fact it feels like the game came out about 3 years ago now. And one thing that got a lot of people's attention was the trailer, not the actual game, because the trailer racked in, I think, overall, millions and millions of views because it looked like a really cool concept. It was like one of these simulation games where you're taking care of like a zoo, like how people have, you know, simulations of like running a supermarket or something, but it was set in a horror game. The graphics looked really competent, even though the trailer was mostly, you know, pre-generated animation. But then when they released some gameplay, it still looked pretty solid. The atmosphere was there. You know, this could have been huge. It could have been Five Nights at Freddy's, but instead of working in a pizzeria and spamming cameras, you were collecting animal waste and tranquilizing penguins. But like I said, the main problem is the biggest trailer that pulled in the most amount of attention, and even I was excited for it, it didn't show any actual gameplay. It tried to look like gameplay. It does that thing that pretty much all video game trailers do now, where it's a bunch of pre-generated animations. A really good example here is there's a zombie game coming out soon. I forget the name of it, but it's set in Birmingham. It basically just looks like Birmingham the last time I was there, like a year ago. And you're going around in this kind of like medieval survival horror setting with zombies, and that's a really cool concept. I can't think of any game that's actually done that before. Zombies, yes. The setting and the zombies, not really. It was almost like Kingdom Come Deliverance, but there was gameplay. Okay, I know I have just enraged half of the people watching this video. What do you mean when you play as Henry of Skalitz, you can't auto-scroll on the side? What? But despite that, the trailer was a huge success, and some of the gameplay trailers as well. The problem started to occur when they actually released the game. Now, honestly, when I played it, you know, some of you that have seen it on stream, I thought I was just being a bit of a negative Nelly. Maybe other people like the game, despite the fact that the Unreal Engine is one of the most unstable pieces of shit engines to ever exist, to the point that it was basically crashing every single time I went into a new loading zone.
Oh, nice. I got a fatal error. Great game. Great game. Great game. Great game, guys. Great game.
But it wasn't just me. Other YouTubers that didn't have the crashing issue, they just hated it as well. And at the time of recording, Zucosis is sat on 58% of its reviews being positive. I mean, some of the stuff did hold up. The graphics, they were really good. The story, it was alright. It was more just the gameplay loop. The gameplay loop itself was absolutely horrendous because you just had no idea what you were doing. I think they tried to almost make it into a roguelite kind of thing where different areas would unlock on new playthroughs. Like, there was no way to actually do everything on the first playthrough. I understand that. You know, you come to a locked door in like a Metroidvania game and it's, oh, I need an item. I'll come back later. But in Zucosis, you were never told this. So it was just really, really confusing. Like, there was a syringe crafting system where you could, like, you know, kill animals or treat them, or you could even pacify the infected ones and like cure them, which was basically a way to get the best outcome. But this wasn't really ever communicated to you. And also, a lot of the game really did feel like padding. I mean, most of the gameplay, if anything, is probably you just traversing from one enclosure to another. So a loading screen, because once you were there, it was just crafting a certain amount of syringes, doing some scans, checking temperature, and there wasn't really any kind of variation there. It was just the animal you were dealing with. But, you know, every animal has a temperature. Every animal has feces to collect with like the poop gun. That was pretty much the entire loop, and it just felt really padded. And honestly, you could beat the game first run in probably about 50 minutes or so. Now again, I'm yapping about a game that I know everyone already doesn't like. The problem is, there's another game that has recently been announced on Steam, and it seems very, very similar in premise. So if you go onto Steam, there's a game listed right now called Hellmart, and it's being developed by a team called Gaze in Games. Gaze in... Is that the actual name? Gaze in... Like... That actually just sounds like parody. Is this not like a Pride company or something? Gaze in Games. Now, again, in Zucosis, you were playing a zookeeper on the night shift, and you were basically trying to treat animals and cure or kill the infected ones. And in Hellmart, you're working in a supermarket on the night shift, having to deal with people that may or may not be sick and infected. Now, these games look incredibly similar to the point that, I mean, even if you look at like the hand from Zucosis and also the one in the Hellmart trailer, they look like 95% the same. Now, admittedly, the links are a little bit dubious, and it's not enough to say that the hands are the same, so it's obviously ripping off Zucosis. I mean, there's so many games that exist right now now that I'm going to personally dub as MatPat Bait. You know, they'll allude to having some kind of like secret or hidden story, like complex characters and lore. And in reality, this can be really beneficial for some studios because YouTubers, streamers, they are absolute leeches. I take that wholeheartedly, 100%. But at the same time as well, when you stream a game or you play it or you talk about it, you are giving that game exposure. I mean, a great example is when I covered games like Cruelty Squad or when I covered Darkwood, I would talk to the devs and basically organize it. So they would organize like a promotional discount for when the video goes live to hopefully bump up their sales. And from what I've seen from the Cruelty Squad dev and the Darkwood devs, their games sold really well because of the videos. Now, it sounds like I'm making this entire video as a cope, like, oh, the games look similar. It's obvious that they're copying or it's the same company. But people actually took a deeper dive and they looked into the gays in games. I will never get over that name. Like, did they not say that out loud when they were ever constructing the name and just think of like the double meaning there? It's almost like the name was made ironically because one of the devs, they saw like one of the pride flags in The Last of Us 2 and they were just absolutely mind broken over it. But people looked into gays in games history and they found nothing. Like literally nothing. There wasn't any proof that they were ripping off Zucosis, but the company, Gaze in Games, didn't really even seem to exist until Hellmart's announcement. And again, you can look it up yourself, Gaze in Games. There's nothing. It only shows results for these other guys called iGaze Games. iGaze Games. That is so close to like iGlaze Games. Now, they do have a website set up, but it shows nothing about the history of the company, just basically social media links for the Hellmart game. There's no About Us section, no previous titles, no employees listed, no history of like, you know, where we came from. It seems that the website only exists to basically promote Hellmart. Now, some people continued to dig further into this, and they actually found IGN, of all people, accidentally did a self-report on them. Because in the description of the IGN Japan announcement trailer, it actually says, when translated, Hellmart is a new horror sim for PC from the publisher of Zucosis. Now, I know, like, using IGN as a source of information is single-handedly the worst thing I could do. And again, I don't really feel like that's enough concrete proof here. I still feel it's a little bit shady. You're basically using, like, Google translated IGN description. But then for the real smoking gun, if you look at the credits for Zucosis, you'll see that the game was based on the original idea of their executive producer, a Bulgarian man called Oleg Gaze. His surname is Gaze. That's over. That is actually over. And if you didn't know, Clapperheads that made Zucosis was a Bulgarian games company. I'm sure you've already made the connection here, but to those that are a little bit slower, Oleg Gaze in Games, the company basically shares the last name with the producer of the company. Now we've got that out the way. The bigger question is, what's the problem? I mean, if a rich guy wants to start a new company, what's the problem with that? The problem is, it's pretty obvious that Zucosis was a failure, even though it probably sold well and made them loads of money. They didn't really try fixing up the game too much. I know that there was a couple of patches, but it seems really obvious what they've tried to do is basically start a new company to pretend to not have any association with Zucosis. Again, there's nowhere in the Steam description of this game that says, from the creators of Zucosis. And they would definitely do that, by the way, if Zucosis wasn't kind of hated by everyone. Now, if you go onto certain websites that try to calculate the amount of people that own a game and how much money the company actually made, Zucosis made around $500,000. Now, that is nowhere near, like, monolithic games like, you know, Repo, Lethal Company, that everyone is now dubbing as like friend slop. But for a single player game to make $500,000, that's actually really, really good. Especially because as well, Zucosis, I think when it first came out, it was like £20 or something like that. So it was still pretty expensive for a game you could just beat in a couple of hours. And what a lot of people don't realize is Zucosis wasn't this company's first attempt at doing a horror game. They actually tried a mascot horror game called Sparky Marky back in 2023, but this was just an even bigger flop. I think it had like less than 300 reviews on Steam, and the last entry was in June 2023, just 1 month before the first episode came out. So this string of failures has basically led people to believe that these Bulgarian developers, they've basically seen Clapperheads as a failure. Zucosis made some money back, but it doesn't have anywhere near the level of respect, so they're going to ditch the name and then try to make a new company, and hopefully no one makes the connection. And again, if you want a fresh start, I totally understand that there's nothing wrong with that. But it's more how it seems like they're basically trying to hide the mistakes of their previous project. There were other things as well, like, you know, the whole AI Lebad. They were using some of it apparently as placeholders in the game, but you can literally see that there's numerous examples of it. It wasn't just one example. Now, with all that said, and the hate mob growing bigger and bigger, this could be bad. no one will buy our game. They might not even pirate it. So this actually led Oleg Gaze to do a public announcement. The company Gaze in Games was... God. It was founded by me, among other reasons, to develop an entirely new project. Hellmart is being built by a completely separate team, new game designers, programmers, and partners. If I were trying to hide something, I wouldn't name it after myself. So it seems that if your boy Oleg is being truthful, the internet, for this one, was half correct. Gazing Games was made solely to create and develop Hellmart. So the real question is, would they have actually made this entirely new company if Zucosis wasn't hated? I mean, probably not, because what would be the reason behind that? If Zucosis was a massive success and everyone loved it, they could have easily stuck in their bio from the creators of Zucosis, and that would have got even more people to be invested in it, thinking it's another stream-banging clip farming game. Also, I do want to correct something I said earlier. I did say that they kind of left Zucosis for dead and didn't put out many updates. That's when I was playing it, but actually looking into it now, they've released, I mean, this is coming from Oleg, they've released around 50 updates, even going to the point that they might add new animals, new enclosures. I mean, honestly, that game, when I played it, it was complete and utter trash. But if enough content gets added and it becomes stable enough, I might even try and play it again like a year later and just see, you know, because I don't want to sit here and be cynical, and hope that these game companies or like these games just fail. I don't want that. You know, if Zucosis manages to actually turn it around, that'd be great. Will many people play it? I mean, probably not. I'm going to flash the Steam charts right now for how many people are playing Zucosis. I'm going to guess it's under 1,000. I do want to say to the team that are working on Hellmart, I've made a video complaining. I'm probably still going to play it, but oh my God, the AI art that you're using for like all the cereals and stuff, that needs to go, because I can imagine every streamer like Jacksepticeye booting that up, because you already saw like Jacksepticeye's opinion of Mr. Beast. I can imagine Jacksepticeye going over to like one of the cereal bars or cereal boxes or something and be like, "Oh, is that AI art? I can't be playing this game anymore. I'm going to go to Twitter and say AI bad and get 200,000 likes." But yeah, what's the moral of this story? I don't know.